Okay, this is Mr. Picasso again. As I was saying, the scientific method involves 6 steps: the purpose, the materials, hypothesis, which means a prediction. What do you think is going to happen? And remember that the purpose for this experiment, this investigation, is to teach you about the scientific method, to teach you about what is a trial, to teach you about what is control, what is a variable, and to analyze, which basically means to observe things using your 5 senses: the sense of seeing, the sense of smelling, tasting, hearing, and feeling. Okay? And then after the purpose, you're gonna have the materials. For today's experiment, like as I said, we're gonna need 2 empty 5-gallon bottle of water. They're the same, they're both blue, they're both plastic. Control, it's the same. I will be using another material, which is a propane gas with a torch. Remember that the gas is flammable, so it's going to catch on fire. And I'm going to use the torch for both. Control, it's the same. The variable, you can only have one. What would be the variable? The variable is going to be the type of alcohol I'm going to be using. This is a variable. One of the gallons, I'm going to pour 20 milliliters of 70% rubbing alcohol. And the other gallon, I'm going to pour 20 milliliters of methyl alcohol. The same amount, but different type of alcohol. Okay? Methyl alcohol. And this one over here is going to be 70% alcohol, rubbing alcohol. Before I continue, we talked about safety purposes last week. Okay? Remember, everything has to be labeled and make sure that the top is on. After I use the alcohol, I will not pour it back into the containers. I have to dispose of it, which means throws away in the proper area. I will not dispose of it in the trash can because someone can throw something in there that is a lighter or something like that is on. And remember that alcohol is flammable, and what's going to happen? It's going to catch on fire. Before I continue, you're going to notice that I have my lab apron, I have my safety goggles, and my safety gloves. Okay? So let's continue. After materials is 3, hypothesis. And we're talking again about the scientific method. We talked about the purpose, we talked about the materials, and now I'm talking about the hypothesis. It's a prediction. What do you think is going to happen in the experiment? Doesn't have to be right or wrong. It's just making you think, okay? Don't forget about that. And we said in the hypothesis, in the little video that I made right now, that I believe that the methyl alcohol is stronger than the 70% alcohol. And I'm going to prove that with this little investigation or experiment. After that, after hypothesis, is going to be 4 procedures. Procedures are your steps. Okay? So let me start with the procedures. Okay? Procedure 1, I'm going to get the 70% rubbing alcohol, open up the top, and I'm going to pour 20 milliliters of alcohol. Make sure you don't spill anything, okay? And you don't need a lot. Into the first container. There. Make sure you put on the top back on and put it to the side. Procedure 2, get the second container with a methyl alcohol, and again, you're going to pour the same amount. Control, remember, the same. What I do to this container, I have to do to this container. They're both plastic, they're both blue, they're both the same height. Okay, everything's the same. The only variable is the type of alcohol. Methyl alcohol, 70% rubbing alcohol. Okay? One variable. You cannot have more than one. If you have more than one, you cannot do the experiment. It's untestable. So again, procedure number 2, pour 20 milliliters of methyl alcohol into the second container. Okay? Make sure you put on the top, make sure you close it, and put it to the side. Before I continue, you're going to notice that my area is clean. I only have the things that I need to use for the experiment or investigation. This is the way you need to conduct an experiment or investigation. You cannot have sandwiches, a bottle of water. You cannot have other materials that you're not going to use. Only the things that you're going to use for the experiment. You don't want any clutter. It has to be clean. Okay? Let's continue with the scientific method. Step 5, data, information. As you remembered, we're using 20% of methyl alcohol and 20 milliliters, we're using 20 milliliters of methyl alcohol in one container and 20 milliliters of 70% rubbing alcohol. Okay. The next procedure is that we're going to get the torch. Okay, a little bit. We're going to get the torch and we're going to put it to the side. The next procedure, we're going to get one of the cans, the one with the 70% alcohol, and we're going to shake it. You're just creating gases. That's all you want. Okay, for about 10 seconds. Set it down. We're going to turn on the torch. And we're going to light it up. Okay. Now let's see what's going to happen to the second container. This is the one with the 70% rubbing alcohol. Now we're going to do the methyl alcohol. You're done with this. I'm going to set it down on the floor for safety purposes. And we're going to do the same thing that we did to the first one. Remember, everything needs to be controlled. Everything needs to be the same. You can only have one variable. And again, what was the variable? The type of alcohol used. One is methyl alcohol and the other one is 70% rubbing alcohol. Okay? You get the bottle, you do the same thing you did to the first one, and you shake it for 10 seconds. You set it on the tabletop. Let's get the torch and turn it on. As you can see, the one with the methyl alcohol is stronger. So my conclusion, which is step 6, is that the methyl alcohol was stronger than the 70% alcohol. And that's your conclusion. And then you compare your conclusion to your hypothesis to see if they match. I already knew what was going to happen, so my conclusion did match with my hypothesis. Remember, the hypothesis means a prediction of what you think is going to happen by looking at the materials, by looking at the question that they're asking. It doesn't have to be right or wrong, just making you think. Okay? Hopefully you understood the scientific method. Hopefully you understood what a trial is. Trial means you go over it again, the same experiment to get better results. Hopefully you understood what variable means, which is one change in an experiment. In this experiment, it was a type of alcohol. Okay? Methyl alcohol and 70% rubbing alcohol. And you probably understood control, that everything needs to be the same. I used the same blue plastic container too, right? Which is over here. Okay. I pour the same amount of 70% rubbing alcohol to one, methyl alcohol to the other one, which was 20 milliliters. Okay. I used the same torch for both of them. And it was done by the same person, which was me. Okay? That was your control. Again, the only variable was the alcohol. One was methyl alcohol and the other one was 70% rubbing alcohol. Okay? Hopefully you enjoyed this little experiment and be ready for next Friday, okay?